internet tonight. We've got Bill Coons here videotaping us. Give him a round of applause for doing that. James, the Media Monarchy is keeping us lit. iTunes is keeping us on. We are all over the internet, all over the globe, and we're sending the message near and far that this is not a test. This is reality. This is the emergency that we've all thought about, and it's happening. And we have been talking about it for years here at the Ground Zero Lounge. Basically, words of warning, words of exhortation, kind of giving the news to you before it's really news. It's what we do here. For those of you that aren't familiar with the Ground Zero Lounge has been at Dante's now for about 3 to 4 years, so let's give Frank a round of applause for that. That's awesome. And we've been doing it, though, for many years before that. We were at a place called Bodacious Classics, and I have a background in news reporting. I worked CNN Western offices at KCNR in Salt Lake City, Utah. I worked for Metro News Organization. I've done that here in Portland as well. Did a lot of news in my background, did a lot of radio talk, and also the show Ground Zero Radio, which was syndicated nationally in 1999 through the NBG Radio Network, moved locally here through various channels from KOTK to Max 910, and hopefully to a radio station near you as we prepare for terrestrial radio. So, yeah, get that. Now, on the topic of terrestrial radio, I want to talk a little bit with you before we get into the show. It's kind of a thing that I want to talk to you about. A lot of people don't realize this, but radio is changing, okay? Many people are aware that people like Adam Carolla, who is a very popular morning man who replaced Howard Stern, is going to, well, actually has been given his papers to go. He's no longer on the air. Tom Leykis, who is a well-known talk show host, who was given his papers to walk, and he's gone too. A lot of women are applauding that, of course. But what I'm getting at is that the economy, for some reason, is the factor, of course. People always say, well, the economy's bad, so we're going to get rid of some people who are like overpaid and overpriced. The problem, though, is not the economy. I'm analyzing the situation as I'm getting myself to move towards being on terrestrial radio. I've been at this, getting back on the air again, for 4 years. Okay? 2 of those years have been spent having cancer. All right? So I had 2 years to find a new show, couldn't do it. 2 years to be in bed and in pain and dying, and then getting a new lease on life. Just celebrated my 45th birthday on Sunday, so I'm pretty happy about that. But see, leaping from that into what do I do now is, hey, I think I can go do radio again, and then I run up against legalese, and I roll up against support, and I roll up against all these things I haven't heard of in the past. Usually if you had talent, you'd go on the radio, throw up a show, somebody would sell you, you get a paycheck. It doesn't work that way anymore. Tom Leykis got let go because they didn't want to finance his engineering costs. He had 3 shows, they were all making money, but they didn't want to finance the engineering costs, so he had to go. They also changed the format of KLSX to Top 40 because talk was not working for them. That's why Adam Carolla got the axe, was because they didn't want to do that. They wanted to go to something simple that didn't cost that much money, they could automate. If you want a local show, or if you want to show a personality, you now have to support that show. Okay? Now, what I mean by that is that you have to support it through either participating in an advertising sense, which means that if you have something to advertise, you come to the show and you say, hey, advertise my product, give me a good deal, put my commercials on the air. Or you say, I'm going to go into an advertiser and I'm going to recommend they advertise on your show. Or you just hand me a $20 bill and say, Clyde, I'm going to see you get where you need to be. The reason why I mentioned this, I told you all that I was going to be on KXL radio. I said this because I felt really good about what was going to happen with that. Well, the honest truth is that negotiations with KXL have changed. They changed because of another conservative talk show host who gathered 600 people together and asked them for $20 a piece, and he managed to get a good 12 grand to get on the radio. He went in without advertisers, he went in with money support from his listenership. Okay? Now, I have not, I think I did once, probably before I went into the hospital. I have never asked my listeners for money. I've always asked them to participate with advertising. I have no advertising now to speak of, and if I do get advertising on the radio, then that will be fine. I can tell you to go do my advertising. Truth of the matter is that we are going to organize something, and with lack of a better name, it's called Deep Pockets for Clyde is what it's called. Because I've talked about people with deep pockets who help people like Art Bell and others get started, like Robert Bigelow, who had millions of dollars to get him on the air, and several other people who backed up money. We are currently looking for investors also. Investors, there are a few people out there with money who are helping the show out, but they can only help a little at a time. We have to turn to the listeners and say, okay, listeners, here's where we stand. Okay? If you want to help us out, you either can, just secretly hand over money. You can give me advertising tips. You can give me other things that will help out. But it's got to be a listener-generated support. Okay? No longer can you be passive and enjoy radio anymore. Just doesn't happen. Sirius and XM are going bankrupt. Why? They didn't have the support. Oh, this is a new fun thing I can have in my car. No commercials. I can just run cable in my car. Didn't pay the bills. Didn't work. Why? Because people just sat back and go, oh, they got a lot of money. They'll survive. They didn't. Tom Likas, #1 show, didn't make it. Top ratings, isn't going to make it. Adam Carolla did really well against, for Howard Stern replacement. Not going to make it. What's going to happen is they're going to throw someone in who people have paid for, whether it be big business or someone else, and this is where we end. Okay? Either we have a big beginning and a big send-off for Ground Zero when it comes time. I have now time to reevaluate what I'm going to do. And I will keep you informed on what's going on with the Deep Pockets for Clyde thing. And what's going on with support and how you can support. I mean, bottom line is, we need help. Bottom line is we're starting over. Bottom line is that once we get going, you don't have to worry anymore. But when you have a guy who can get 600 people to pay to get him on the air, that says something. And I've been around for a lot longer than most of these people, and I've been doing this now and giving out information and doing it for advertising, but now I'm doing it for free. And now when I'm saying I want to go and do corporate radio again and do it independently, they say, well, what do you have to show as far as support, money, or otherwise? And I have to give them an itemized list of what I got. And at the moment, I don't know what I have. So I want you to let me know what you have, or what I have, by spreading the word, by emailing me. It's groundzeropdx@yahoo.com. If you want to silently email me and tell me if you have any tips to make money or any tips to get money in the pocket, or whatever. If you know people that want to advertise, have them get in touch with me with the shows that I'm planning. And I'm not going to run away with your money because I'm an honest person. I mean, I'm too big and I'm too big of a person to not get caught in this crap. I'm one of those people that has the accent of being huge and bigger head than most, and you can't miss Clyde Lewis. He's just too big. It's just the way it is. I mean, I couldn't hold up a store. He's got a mole above his eye. He's got a hairy face and a big body. He looks weird. That's Clyde. I can't do that. Yeah. So, I've been doing this now, God, for going on 16, 17 years. And it's a lot of fun to do it, but it is beginning to look like corporate is telling people, we need money, and you need to show money. And I'm biting my tongue saying it, but it has to happen that way. Soon I'll have to actually charge for some of this stuff that I'm doing. Ground Zero Lounge will always be free, but everything else is going to have to be, I'm going to have to say, I have to charge for this now. I have to start begging for money now. And that's the thing that really sucks. Anyway, somebody's calling me. I can't believe this. Let's talk about the show tonight. Enough for the begging radio thing. Please support Ground Zero. Get loud for everybody out here. Let them know that we're here, please. Thank you. Tonight's show is, I've been wanting to do this show for weeks, and I haven't had an opportunity to because I've been sidetracked by a lot of things. The show tonight is called MK Agricultura, the New Contaminational Crisis, or the New Contaminational Crisis. Basically, I've been looking at stories in the news and the parallel stories between the economy. There are parallel stories between the economy and food sources that are being contaminated and destroyed. Which I don't understand why we don't cut away and talk about this more often. And what I think of when I think of the contaminated food and the culling of the population is a little something called Agenda 21. And what Agenda 21 is, they met in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, on how they can put the earth into something called sustainable development. My friend Doug here has talked about this with me many times about how the population needs to be wiped out, or they need to cull the population, needs 2/3 of the population, mainly because of the fact that something called your environmental print or your carbon footprint. I think that's something that's just really bizarre and weird, but it's true. According to the report, there's a part in the essay called Habitat 2, and in it, it says that sustainable development consists of a number of suggestions to improve the environment. First, in the agenda is to establish a group of consensus of crises and solutions that include separating the people and eventually taking them out, culling them. We don't know who those people are, but they are being targeted for cull. Now, this style of commentary is the same that I read about in Mein Kampf, which Hitler wrote, said that it is important to sift the human material. What that means is to separate those who support you and those who don't support you. I'm talking about the leaders in the world. You support their agendas, or you get sent away, or killed, or ruined economically. Okay? And they're establishing this now, as you can see, that some countries don't want to jump on board with the EU. Some countries don't want to jump on board with the United States. And so what happens? They're either targeted for war, or they're targeted for something else, like sanctions or what have you. This is how the world operates. One of the fundamental ways to basically get a country to get in line is to withhold food. They control the food sources, the sustenance, the resources for food and water. When a government offers food to a poor country, it is never neutral. It's never an unconditional act of charity. In most cases, food can only flow with the consent of the men with power. In poorer countries, the men with the guns regulate who has the food. They stand there with guns and they tell you who eats and who starves. We're at that point now. If the economy is to go as bad as they claim, those with guns and those with the power are going to regulate who gets to eat and who gets to starve. And that'll be interesting to watch. Because that's the next phase, I believe. We should not be surprised that in the future, with the poor economy, food will be used as a weapon and its sustenance will be an issue throughout the world. Starvation will run rampant, and those who have interest in sifting the human material will find it easier to cull the population using food as a weapon. By the way, if you have any questions or any comments about what I'm talking about tonight, we have 2 microphones, one on this side and one on the other side. Please, by all means, speak your mind, because that's what the show's about. It's talk, it's free speech. Go ahead.
I just want to ask about water and make a comment that they said that Central California is not going to get the water that they expected this year. Right. They said that, I think, I can't remember how many acres, something like 80,000 acres going to remain fallow, which means that the economy is going to suffer in the Central California Valley by $1.9 billion.
Yes.
Driving up the cost of vegetables all over the country, including here.
That's right.
So start your backyard garden now.
That's right. Start your gardens now. He's very right. Give him a hand for that. The water situation in California is going to be so bad that, yes, we are going to take an economic hit on vegetables. Vegetables are going to be, and get this, if you think the spinach situation or the tomato situation was bad, wait till you start seeing how migrant workers treat your vegetables when they're not getting their paychecks. Especially with a state that's falling apart and going bankrupt, the war on the aliens is going to be there. And the aliens are going to fight back by doing what they did before to the spinach crop and whatever other crop they can get their hands on. Food is going to be the next weapon of mass destruction. Okay? Keep in mind that that's going to happen because he just brought up the water situation. I forgot all about it. In fact, George Orwell had said, in 1984, he said, hierarchical society is only possible on the basis of poverty and ignorance. This new version is the past, and no different past can ever have existed. In principle, the war effort is always planned to keep society on the brink of starvation. That is why you work. That is why you go out and make money. Because if you don't, you starve. And a country can keep everyone on the brink of starvation, just barely making it, so they'll go out and make that money. And get that food. And that's why things work the way they do. We've covered a number of traumatic mind control events. Yes, there's Arnold. He's getting the shit beat out of him. Anyway, we've talked about a lot of mind control events, traumatic mind control events that have shaped our lives, from 9/11, MK Ultra, where they use trauma-based mind control to get you to go in line. Well, through economic instabilities and through poverty and through food sources being taken away, emotional upheaval, the leadership of the world will basically hold the keys to your survival. How many people have heard that whole phrase, the mark of the beast, by applause? Yeah. Look, it says the mark of the beast. It says you will not be able to buy, sell, or trade without the mark on your hand or your forehead, okay? Well, whatever that mark may be, we're getting to that point, okay? You're not going to be able to get food or water or anything unless you accept a certain philosophy. Whatever that philosophy may be, you're going to have to go with that philosophy. That's where we're headed, okay? I don't know if you believe in the mark of the beast or the 666 or whatever you want to call it, the devil's prophecy or what have you. Yeah, you got your UPC code. I see that. I don't know what you believe, but that is what it's coming to, okay? It's coming to you need to have a certain code or a certain phrase or whatever to get the food and drink you're going to want. I mean, it's going to get that bad. Talk about what's going on in California. I mean, you're part, we are all part, actually, of an ongoing social experiment. And that is, we are the rats looking for the cheese. And we're constantly looking for the cheese, and we want to be the ones who have the most cheese. But we're getting to the point where, how much is too much cheese to have? Why do you need to have this much cheese when other people don't have enough cheese? We have to equal the wealth, they say. Well, it's not that. What they need to do is they're going to turn around and they're going to say, sure, you got cheese, but now you have to figure out which one's poisoned and which one isn't poisoned. Which cheese you have to make a deal with the devil with to eat. That's what we're looking at. That's what's going on. There's actually literature available on psychological operations and how they have been tested before on individuals, even communities, to see what would happen to their minds in cases of power failures, rumors of diseases, and even famine. One of the latest psychological operations has been going on since September 11th, 2001. The attacks in the United States, of course. It has been an interesting accelerating point for watching human behavior and what people are willing to swallow mentally and physically. After 9/11, our minds changed. We changed, and we continue to change. Just after September 11th, they told us that there was, the Afghanis were involved, and we had to go to Afghanistan to fight a war. The focus was then pushed to Iraq because Saddam Hussein allegedly had weapons of mass destruction and yellow cake uranium and all that other shit. Well, these alleged weapons were considered a threat, and many Americans today still believe those weapons exist. They're still waiting for them to be found. Nah, they're not going to be found because they're not there. You know, truth is, you ask the WMD believers, well, if these WMDs or these weapons of mass destruction existed, then how is it these so-called large and resourceful terrorist organizations keep hearing about refrain from using weapons of mass destruction on the United States? If they have them, why don't they fucking use them? Because they don't fucking have them. Plain and fucking simple. That's why they fly airplanes into buildings, because they don't have fucking weapons of mass destruction. God, use a head. The WMD scare was just that. It was a psychological operation. There were no weapons of mass destruction. That's why terrorists, for the most part, have to use unconventional methods to create terror. Weapons that are cheap and effective. And the ones you wouldn't expect to have used on you. You see? Go ahead.
The only people that have nuclear weapons are the people surrounding the countries that we think might be getting them.
Right.
Pakistan, India, Israel, and who knows who else.
And we're hearing all about these people, and we're doing nothing about it. But yeah, we're going after these people that are defenseless, and we make up all this bullshit about them. But see, here's the deal. Cheap, effective weapons are what terrorists use. For example, There was a foiled terrorist plot in 2007 where extremists were attempting to attack Ramstein Air Force Base, a nightclub, and Frankfurt International Airport. The terrorists didn't use any yellow cake uranium or toxic industrial chemicals to make their bombs. They used white flour and hydrogen peroxide. They bought those fucking things at a drugstore. Hydrogen peroxide and white flour makes an excellent bomb. Not going to tell you how you make it, but it makes an excellent bomb. Here's another fun bomb for you. Tang. Tang mixed with chlorine explodes very well, thank you. In fact, terrorist organization used Tang, a breakfast drink that was made popular by astronauts, mixed it with chlorine and blew a hole in an aircraft. Just by using Tang and chlorine. Bromine, the very thing you use to clean your swimming pool with when mixed with alcohol, makes a great gas and would kill a great many people. All you have to do is put the bromine in the alcohol and it burns up into an acid that sends gas all over the place and would kill a lot of people. Woo-hoo. This stuff can be bought for under $20 at Walmart. Okay? Yeah, you're yelling and screaming about weapons of mass destruction. Hell, you can go to Walmart and make a weapon of mass destruction. You can use food as a weapon of mass. You can actually ignite dairy creamer. It's lethal. This is what these terrorists know how to do. It's a terror. It's unconventional weapons. A list of potential unconventional weapons and methods of simple terrorism have been published by alphabet agencies classified under terrorist organizations and unconventional terrorism. The literature has recorded several unconventional methods that are used by terrorists using simple items that can be obtained anywhere without a background check.
I'm sorry. Could you slow down? I'm trying to take notes.
Sure.
What explodes really well?
Tang and chlorine, bromine. Okay, sure.
$20 at Walmart?
Yeah.
Thank you.
What's your name?
Soren.
Soren? Soren what?
Just Soren.
Okay, Soren. Just in case anything happens, you're on TV right now. Okay? Cool. Hey, you get this information off the internet. How does the alphabet agencies tell you in state local intelligence terrorism books?
Don't accept any presents from that guy.
No. Jesus, I'm not telling you anything nobody doesn't know. I mean, go to a chemistry class. You can take, I saw this at school, you can take a gummy bear and drop it in some sort of thing and it explodes. It's amazing.
Mentos and Coke.
Mentos and Coke make a great bomb. Whatever. According to the section State and Local Intelligence of the War on Terrorism, your biggest terror offenders will not be Muslim groups, according to them. For the future, we need to be looking at right-wing extremists, followed by race and hatred groups, special interest groups like eco-terrorists and right-to-life groups who bomb abortion clinics. Religious groups that use violence are low on the list, and doomsday cultists are now low on the list because doomsday has passed. Unless some 2012 group gets together and says, hey, we're going to blow shit up on 2012. But in the meantime, they focus their attention on right-wing extremists. So if you're a right-winger, you're in the focus. You're in the crosshairs of state law enforcement and local agencies. One of the most important sections of the literature deals with the contamination of both water and food supplies. Water and food supply terror models are the most complicated and the hardest to solve because food contamination sources and methods can appear to be naturally occurring. Bacterial and chemical contaminants happen regularly in the food supply. This unconventional, quote, unconventional method of terror is old school, and yet it's called unconventional. This is old school terrorism right here. Old school terrorism. It's exactly what it is. In 1978, the Palestinian Liberation Organization began to poison Israeli oranges in European markets, injuring 12 and seriously damaging the Israeli economy. But then the activity just stopped. Europeans at least 3 countries became ill from eating Israeli citrus products, oranges, lemons, and grapefruit. They had been contaminated with mercury. They injected mercury into the oranges and people got sick. That's how easy it can be. Doesn't take bombs, doesn't take yellow cake uranium. All it takes is a nice syringe full of mercury to make people sick. Okay? They were doing it with syringes. The tampering of water and food supplies offer a mass psychological fear, and it's quite effective in damaging a weakened economy. Modern food supply systems have become more vulnerable due to their connections to various distribution outlets. Huge processing farms are coupled with huge shipping outlets that have multiple connections to suppliers and distributors. We have at least 3 major distributors in this city alone that give you your food. The food that's supplied to Dante's is from one distributor, and it may be distributed to several other places as well, the same food company. So if one area of food is contaminated and that company is distributed, you can have like 3 or 4 restaurants giving you the same contaminated sources of food. Okay? That's how it works. We have been so compartmentalized that we don't pay attention to how the food is distributed. We don't care, just as long as we eat it. We don't care. Regardless of your definition of terrorism, food tampering is terrorism without political purpose. It is usually done to weaken economic progress and to sabotage products in order to restrict consumer confidence. It is hard to track any food contamination to organize terrorism because of the conspiracy of silence. People don't want to tell you, hey, our company just gave you some shitty food. It will kill them. And so, they do it all the time, you're right, but they won't tell you that. They won't tell you that because they don't want you to not buy their food. It's consumer confidence. Go ahead.
I must respectfully disagree with you in that economics are very political and politics are very economical. They're almost not separatable. So there are political reasons for this. They want to weaken the country. That's very political.
If you say so.
Yes.
Fine. You believe that, it's true. I'm just saying it's not always political. Sometimes it's just people want to watch you die. They just want to watch you die.
Yeah, sometimes it's ideological,
Sure.
which is not always political.
The Bhagwan Rajneesh wanted to stop an election. I know that when he put that stuff in that food.
So you've got something multi-purpose, which is even more fun.
But it's a silent killer, and it doesn't give you the results as quick as you'd like. But it does work. There's often corruption and collusion as well in the local level between governments and companies with regard to food tampering or contamination, mainly because, as we said, psychological effects and loss of product confidence. Sometimes the contamination of a product is known by a company weeks before any press release is issued. Take a look at the U.S. peanut plant. They knew that their peanut butter was tampered with and full of salmonella, and yet they sold it to the public anyway. They sold it to the public anyway. Food tampering or poison does not have a quick psychological effect that most terrorists are looking for. However, the long-term effects set in motion a fear of certain foods that have no potentiality for spoilage or less potentiality, such as peanut butter. Peanut butter scare is one of those suspicious circumstances because salmonella has a hard time getting into peanut butter. Why? The heating process, the grinding process, and the fat content of peanut butter, and the less water, salmonella doesn't have a chance to adhere to it. So somebody pretty damn well wanted to have that happen, and it did. And they didn't tell anybody about it. That's criminal negligence, and it causes lost confidence in food. The point is that potential for terrorism in the food industry is high now because we are seeing what are known as benign substances becoming lethal. This indicates that there have been trial run scares in the food industry to determine reaction and prevention. Still, we see that the United States faces some very hard challenges when it comes to securing the nation's food supply against long-term dangers or, quote, unconventional terrorism. All it takes is a chemical reaction or an introduction of a binary process and we can have major outbreaks of serious health problems attributed to food sources. Let's take a substance as benign as wheat, okay? Wheat is one of those things that compete pretty well. Wheat sits in unprotected grain silos and in railroad cars for long periods of time awaiting transport. It just sits there. No one even thinks for 1 minute that the silos are in trouble. Then we have a terrorist group. They go in and they find these little generators that are sitting on your telephone poles. Do you know what sits in those generators? Oil. You know what's in that oil? PCBs. Did you know that PCBs are colorless, odorless, and tasteless? They can be placed in the wheat and people will die of cancer from it. All it takes is a spoonful in a boxcar full of wheat and distribute it throughout breads and cereals and everything else, and wham, you have a group of people all dying of cancer. They don't burn easily. They're good insulators. They don't burn well in the body either. They attack the endocrine system. They do slow damage to the body. As it's distributed through the food system, it goes into bread, cereals, without notice. Dioxins that are carcinogenic and neurotoxic find their way to the breakfast table and are consumed by people. Their endocrine systems are compromised, and we notice children and the elderly dying of kidney failure in droves. There's no clear explanation as to why this is happening. Meanwhile, public hysteria reaches an all-time high. When the reaction reaches a fever pitch, terrorists can claim that they have laced grains with dioxins. By this time, millions of people have already been exposed to it, and thousands of people are already dying of cancer. That's how it works. It's as easy as that. This is an example of what can happen after a dioxin takes over your body. This is a Ukrainian president who basically went from looking like he does on the left to what he does on the right, and they said that he was given the dioxin while he was eating, and it was administered to him for a long period of time. And he didn't know it. It's as easy as sneaking it into food. In January of 1999, 500 tons of wheat in Belgium were accidentally contaminated with approximately 50 kilos of PCBs from leaking electrical generators. Millions of people consumed the wheat. 8,000 people got cancer from it. Same thing happened in Billings, Montana in 1979. Polychlorinated biphenyl contamination incident in Billings, Montana in 1979. It happened on September 11th, 1979, where wheat meal got into the cattle feed and basically caused the cattle to act strangely, and it ruined the whole thing. They had to condemn everything. Luckily, they caught it in time, at least so they say, but it still was a very scary time for that. Food contamination, whether accidental or intentional, seems to be a recurrent in the news these days. I don't know, the peanut thing is a big scare right now. They're talking about other things that are going on with food contamination. This is something that people say is preventable with, merely washing your hands and being, whatever. But the truth of the matter is that with the consolidation and the globalization of the planet, if we want to combine our food services with other world entities, it can spread a lot quicker. If a group or organization wants to wipe out a certain race or a certain group of people, all they have to do is just contaminate one type of food group. Americans are into pastas, they're into carbs. Well, what do? They'll just basically contaminate the spaghetti, or they'll contaminate the macaroni. It's not hard to do, and it's been done. The peanut thing is truly criminal negligence. I'm beginning to notice a trend, and that's why I'm making it aware. The most recent and still evolving example of how this is going on is melamine contamination of infant formula. The Chinese had their kids, the children were drinking formula that was contaminated with melamine. It's an acid. It's an acid solvent they put on dishes to keep them together. It got into the milk. How? No one knows. But there were people who actually faced the 9mm solution when they got caught being a part of it. Go ahead.
A lot of people say that melamine is used as a filler, much like you use breadcrumbs in meatloaf. Okay?
Wow.
And that actually the head of the Chinese equivalent of the FDA was executed as a result of that.
Yeah, because not because it killed people, because it was an embarrassment to the country.
Yep.
Exactly. Now, people say, well, I'm organic. I don't have to worry about that. I'm organic because organic food is good. Organic food doesn't have shit floating around in it. Yeah, fuck you. My organic baby, a company out of Vermont, had the same problem happen to them. Babies got sick in Canada because they got food from Vermont that was organic. I'm so fucking tired of hearing people say, I have organic and free range. I don't give a shit. Your food can be contaminated. Fucking hippie. Jesus Christ. Well, you're not a wheat jerk hippie. I mean, give me a burger. You're not worried about it, right? No. I don't care. I mean, it just pisses me off. They're just snobs. And another thing too about this organic thing, people getting organic lettuce found out that percolate is in their organic lettuce. And in organic milk. You know what percolate is? It's rocket fuel. Now how'd that get in there? No one knows how it got in there. In fact, it's a natural occurring thing, but you've got trace amounts and you've got huge amounts, parts per million, and what is it doing? It's making people sick. They found high concentrations of it. The FDA found an average concentration of 5.76 parts per billion for choline in 104 milk samples in study, and then they went to the lettuce and found that 10.49 parts per billion are in there. So people are taking in this rocket fuel shit, it's making them sick. Organic food! Organic food, people. These are dangerous levels. The FDA has been able to identify the contamination, but have not been able to trace where it comes from. It's called the genealogy of poison, and it's hard to track. That's what's beautiful about this type of terrorism. You can't track it because these things occur naturally, and so they can say, "Oh, it's normal." These trace amounts are normal. There's no been linked to an agency or terrorist or otherwise organization responsible for tainting this food, but it's being tainted. Americans spend more time eating away from home, and most foods consumed are prepared outside of the home. You put your trust in food that is handled by so many people, from farm to fryer, and most of the fast food is targeted at young children. It's a food source that is compartmentalized and is mass-produced, from the bun to meat and the little packets of ketchup used on the French fries. You would think that the obvious target for terrorists would be the fast food industry. However, it is the least expected thing in a prepared meal that could be deadly that you have to look out for. For example, hi, I'm talking over here. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah, the band will be up momentarily, but we're doing the show, okay? Thank you. The state of Kentucky actually had a storm, its winter storm moved through. And when the winter storm moved through, the Kentucky government decided they were going to prepare meals for the people because they were all hungry. So, it was a really bad situation. So they ran out of food, so they went to FEMA and they said, "Hey FEMA, can you prepare some food for us?" And what did they put in? Peanut butter. What was the peanut butter? The tainted peanut butter that was given from the company that had the tainted peanut butter. All of those meals provided by the Federal Emergency Management Agency were tainted with salmonella peanut butter. So the thing that you least expect to kill you could have been in your food that was supposed to save you. Okay? Kind of interesting, isn't it, that happened? Now, with all the facts I presented to you tonight, there is something else that we've overlooked, and that is the method in which terrorism operates and finally succeeds. The September 11th attacks resulted in direct losses of about $27.2 billion, and the long-term effects on the economy are still being felt. When the actual event took place, there were many people who were caught off guard because it is alleged that a few thought it was a drill and not the real thing. It has been established that the events that happened that day had been practiced through dry runs, procedures, and drills carried out by the Department of Defense and the terrorists themselves. So, since 9/11, we have been reading story after story about food being contaminated either accidentally or on purpose. Each time we hear of these problems, we simply do not know or why the products are becoming dangerous. But the truth is they are. It started with the poisonings in pet foods, killing thousands of cats and dogs. Thousands of cats and dogs died as a result of eating tainted pet food. The pet food was loaded with things like aminopoterin, which is a rat poison, methotrexate, and melamine. All three of those seem to be a pattern, aren't they? Melamine, all these chemicals, how do they get in the food? No one knows. But they're tracing them back to China. Then we had from dog foods going to infant formula. So we tested it on the animals. Now we're going to test it on the kids. And then from the kids, we go to produce, spinach, tomatoes, peppers, and beef get recalled. And this is where we end up. In fact, 26 states were affected by the recall of all of the horrible things that happen with produce. A little boy in Chubbuck, Idaho was killed because he ate tainted spinach. Salmonella turns up in peanut butter. Now that's the story. Peanut butter, as I said, is full of fat prepared with heat. There's no way that salmonella could have gotten there unless it was put in there intentionally. No way. What I keep saying right now is this: all these potential problems with the food sources are dry runs for the big event. We start with pets, we move to children, we go to adults. And then we do the big one. The big one will wipe out thousands of people. And it was all done with something that you didn't expect, and that's your own food. Don't sit there and worry about nuclear bombs, and don't sit there and worry. You can worry about it all you want. It's the food that they want to get. It's the water they want to get. The United States has this problem, and I'll tell you what it is. They tend to think in terms of short-term spectacle when it comes to terrorism. They see the explosions, the drama, the heroic saviors that rescue the victims. We will not notice any terror event unless it has all the trappings of a Hollywood action movie. Our disconnection from the natural world makes us believe that risk and benefit unfold at a blistering pace. If we see a horrific event and not find an enemy to pin it on immediately, we are not satisfied that it's a real terror event. Get that out of your head now. New terror events are not going to be big explosions, and they're not going to be heroes coming out of the woodwork from the police department or the fire department. The new terror events are going to be quiet, they're going to be silent, and they're going to be deadly. And they're going to harm the economy and the consumer faith in products and services here in the United States. And I know that sounds doom and gloom, but I have reason to talk about this. Americans seem to think they know all the answers when it comes to terror problems, and they demand all these things to happen. We need to have surveillance at the airport, we need to be frisked, and we need to do all this to take away our freedoms. But why is it no one is coming forward and saying, hell, I want my food looked at. I want to have money going to prevent terrorism with the food. They won't, because that's not what they see in the movies. For a terrorist group with patience, a slow-motion disaster and ecological time will be perfect against an enemy that thinks in terms of days or months, but would suffer across the generations. Americans would not suspect anything. They would look at things like high depression rates and normal childhood diabetes as a sign of the times, or even the inability to reproduce as a sign to take more fucking Viagra. That's what they do, is they say, hey, this childhood diabetes is normal. Why? Because we're feeding kids all this shit. Well, guess what? The high fructose corn syrup you're feeding your kids is loaded with mercury. They just came out with a study the other day. It's loaded with mercury and it's killing your kids. Americans never stop and wonder why there are things like acid reflux or fibromyalgia, childhood obesity. They're told there's a drug to get rid of it. They're chronic, they make people sick. Let alone, they don't think about why cancer is no longer something that you might get. It's now something you will get. We are toxic enough that everyone in this room may experience a cancer scare or have cancer. Now the question is the toxicity in our foods and contaminations intentional? The best homeland defense, I believe, is to be aware and find protection of human agricultural health systems that can detect and deal with whatever comes in, such as an infrastructure would pay for itself. Even without the terrorists, when you look at bugs, look at insects, they can come in and destroy a lot of things. He was just talking about the water situation in California. Your crops in California are going to not get water, and you're going to be paying a lot for your tomatoes and for your lettuce and for everything else. It's just the way it works, and that's how the economy's going. For a terrorist group with patience, a slow-motion disaster and ecological time would be a perfect tactic against an enemy that thinks in terms of days and months. That's how it works. We think too quickly. We don't think long-term. We take a look at the drinking water. They're saying now that there are drugs being found in the drinking water as well. Drugs in the drinking water. How does that happen? Well, we've got fluoride and all these other things, but here it is. People take pills, their bodies absorb some of the medication, but the rest of it passes through and is flushed down the toilet. The wastewater is treated before it is discharged into reservoirs, rivers, and lakes, and then some of the water is cleansed again at drinking water treatment plants and piped to consumers. But most treatments do not remove all of the drug residue. The reason why we're all having problems hormonally, the reason why reproductive systems are going bad is because we are ingesting, through tap water, drugs, pesticides, and problems such as those. And they're being put in there by big companies who keep their mouths shut and don't say anything about it. Free drugs, but they're not good for you. While researchers do not yet understand the exact risks from decades of persistent exposure to random combinations of low levels of pharmaceuticals, recent studies which have gone virtually unnoticed by the general public have found alarming effects on human cells and wildlife. Our existence right now is fragile, and we are chasing after the wrong things and fighting stupid wars. If you believe the war on terrorism is important, you're full of shit. Things at home, and not only that, but ecologically speaking, global warming is not really as much of a threat as this. Food sources, crops, everything, your chance to eat is getting taken from you. Take a look at this. This is a FEMA camp. This is a close-up satellite of the FEMA camp. There are black areas in this FEMA camp. This FEMA camp is located in Georgia. The dark areas near the camp have been the topic of many blogs online. What has been discovered is chilling, if not telling, of what the government is fearing. What you're looking at, there are thousands of plastic shipping coffins that are available at this FEMA camp. Now, they've been ordered and they're sitting there. Now these are called polyguard crypts or polyguard liners. The reason why they're plastic is water resistant. They can throw a body or two in here, throw them in graves, and they can put like 4 or 5 in one and pack them. And they have them ready to go and have them on trucks ready to go right now. For what? No one knows, but they're there. And you saw the aerial view, you saw how many were there ready to go. When FEMA was pressed on the idea as to why the shipping coffins were sitting there, they said, we don't want another Katrina. So they're planning on another disaster, and who knows what that disaster is going to be, but it's enough to have at least 50,000 or so coffins lined up.
Clyde?
Yeah.
What part of Georgia is that in? Do you know?
Madison or Mason? Madison,
Madison
Georgia?
or Mason? Okay,
Somebody-
I just got a new version of Google Earth. And you can, I'm wondering, how recently was this constructed, do you know?
It's been around for a while. In fact, it's been on blogs all over the place talking about what are these, because they just shipped them in. They've been around for, a while, and they're like saying, why are you shipping in these 50,000 polyguard crypt coffin liners? What are they for? And he was saying, well, so they're expecting something. They've got the FEMA camps, and now they got the coffins ready to go. So
Well, they're probably cheaper than body bags. They don't
Sure.
have to have a zipper.
Well, body bags, they have to transfer them and everything else, but in these things, polyguards can be thrown massively into the ground and covered up, and they're waterproof, and they're fine. They're perfect, yeah. Yeah, go ahead.
Wouldn't it be more cost effective to just freeze dry us?
Maybe, who knows? Or burn everybody in a mass burning grave or something. Anyway, the quest for the bomb in the Middle East has Israel and the U.S. fearful of what might happen. However, all nations are currently searching for the capability of designing pathogens and dioxins that target specific races and countries by virtue of what they choose to put in their bodies. The resulting morbidity and mortality from the tainting of foodstuffs and resources will be accompanied by chaos, governmental and social instability, panic, and extraordinary utilization of available resources, and definite, it will blow the economy away. That's all we need. We are, right now, that vulnerable. If something happens to a food source, we're pretty much screwed. The new contamination trauma is there, ready to go. It's very much dry run for something that will be far more reaching as we see the falling farms and the food resources that can be affected. We must admit that an attack on our poultry, our beef, and even our crops is an attack on American soil. When they say attack on American soil, and they're talking about crops being destroyed in California and all these other things, these are very important things to consider. I know that you're not feeling the pinch of the economy yet. Some of you may have lost your jobs. Some of you don't have jobs, and you don't give a fuck. Okay? That's fine. You're going to be the ones who are going to be standing wondering what the hell happened when things like this go down. This show is a part 1 show. Okay? Next week, I am going to prove to you that I'm not full of shit up in the night about this. I'm bringing a general food inspector to this place, and he just got back from Beijing, and he's going to share with you what's being talked about in the world right now. It has to do with your ability to eat. It has to do with your ability to have food, and it has to do with your ability to eat food with confidence. Okay? Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just talking about the same thing that you're talking about.
Go ahead, get right on the microphone there.
My uncle's been reading this book, and he's been telling me about with the economy.
Sure, go ahead.
He says for like the past 20 years, this book has been reported how the economy is going, and he says it's reporting our economy to come down to the point where it's going to be a depression greater than the Great Depression.
Right.
And he's saying what we need to do is become self-sufficient, as in growing our own gardens and growing our own food.
Right.
And in the same way, why can't we do that as communities? Have like Sherwood. I'm from Sherwood, kind of.
Sure.
Have like a couple farms there, growing all the produce we need, raising the animals we need, and the same thing. It would solve. We wouldn't have to worry about the corporations and the people
Right.
behind the corporation. The money.
Right.
Don't worry about the money, and that's where the terrorism can come in.
Imagine what would happen though if they told you you couldn't grow your own food. That can come down to, they took B6 off the market because they said that it was doing the same thing as a drug that they wanted to promote, so they took it off. So you can't, sometimes you're going to be taking vitamins off the market and other things too, so you never know.
It's the biggest bidder.
What's that?
The biggest bidder.
Yeah, the highest bidder. Also, there's Monsanto to deal with. They're a company that genetically modifies foods. If they can create foods that won't spoil, you'll be eating genetically modified foods in the future, which isn't good for the body. They don't know what's going on with that.
Exactly.
Right.
I mean, we can't trust what they're putting in our foods. We
No.
don't know who they are.
Right.
There's no reason why we can't grow our own foods on our own farms and sell it to the people.
It's true.
As it is.
Very good. What's your name? Bill, give him a hand. That was good. Grow your own food. Raise your own food. That's important. Thank you. That's important. If you can grow your own gardens, do so. Tomatoes, carrots, peas, whatever you can do it. Because, like we were talking about tonight, what Brian said, we're looking at an economy where the vegetables are going to be running less, and we're going to have more money paying out for those things. Not only that, but more recalls on meats, more recalls on those things. Be aware and pay attention. Don't let the front stories mesmerize you and take you over. Look at the side stories, and the side stories are all about food contamination and biological terror. That's what's going on in the background. And unless you pay attention to this, you're going to get sideswiped and you're not going to have food. Prepare to get food in your house now that's non-perishable, too. Prepare for that because it's important to have that in your house. Something like wheat, like I said, wheat keeps. Or rice keeps. Those things keep for a good long time. And water, keep those things available. And also spices. I always tell people salt and pepper and all that stuff is good too because no one wants to eat rice that's plain. You know, you want to eat good food, right? And besides, you can trade spices for other things, right? Hershey bars and nylon's got a lot of things going on Hogan's Heroes, right? Something like that. Anyway, next week it's going to be a big show. We're going to have the food inspector who's going to talk about this stuff. It's going to be a little bit more interesting coming from an authority. Just got back from Beijing and talk about this with you. I wanted you to hear this first, the beginning of this, because I want you to hear the truth about what's going on in the food supply, what's going on in the next phase of the economic meltdown. These are important times to hear these words. I thank you for coming out to the Ground Zero Lounge tonight. I'd like to thank Bill Foods again for videotaping us. And be paying attention because there's going to be a lot of opportunities to help Ground Zero get back on the terrestrial radio side again. We'll keep you informed on that too. Good night from the Ground Zero Lounge. Karaoke from Hell is up next. Thank you.